I really don't see any super high-end guards being out there on the free agent market. But if you had a solid starter that you signed and you made these other moves, that would still give you the flexibility to at least one of the two sign Sheldon Richardson or Anthony Barr. So in my mind, that would be the way to go. Make those moves, sign a guard, re-sign one of those other two, and then, you can kind of have a couple million here and there for some role players.
Absolutely. Let's save more internal free agent talk on the Vikings for a future show. Let's get more into the NFL playoffs, what happened this weekend, obviously with Jeff Diamond later in the week. We're going to do a lot of previewing of the NFC and AFC championship games, but here we're talking on a Monday, right after the biggest football weekend there is. Let's get into some matchups and some Vikings implications and connections. We do want to thank Tony Hoagland, HOAGLUND, your State Farm agent, works out of Champlin, but I've never been to, I've been to Tony's office a couple times, do shows, but I don't regularly get by Champlin. I don't work with Tony because he's in Champlin. I work with him because you can work with him wherever you are, phone, email, app. He makes it really easy. He also does my insurance as well as Michael Russo's.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoagland. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
So I still think the Bears screwed up by not letting the Vikings win that game. Now we have the Vikings get to see the Saints beat the Eagles. I don't know. Let me start the segment over. Do Vikings fans have reason to root for anybody in these playoffs? I know I did. I wrote a column saying, hey, I knew Cam Jordan's father, Steve Jordan, who I thought was a classy guy. I covered as a Viking, and Patrick Mahomes his father was a twin who I covered. I really liked. So those are my rooting interests. If you're the average modern Viking fan, who should be rooting for here?
Well, I think most Vikings fans got their wishes, from what I can tell, by the Eagles losing. But it was one of those interesting ones where, Vikings fans generally hate Eagles fans because of the way they were treated last in the 2017 playoffs.
And you know what? There are a lot of
Saints.
I know there are a lot of irrational fan views on many things in sports, but I get it. I was there. I understand why Viking fans would hate the Eagles because of the way Viking fans were treated in Philadelphia. I think that's a completely legitimate view. Now, Vikings fans in New Orleans for 2009, what I heard was about 80% positive reviews of being in New Orleans, being around Saints fans, with the occasional horror story.
Yeah, I didn't really hear any big horror stories there. And from what I witnessed in New Orleans, it was, a great atmosphere, environment, and beyond the whole Bounty Gate. But I put that thing on Greg Williams and much more than Sean Payton, and so if you're holding grudges as a Vikings fan, I think the bigger and more legitimate grudge is against the Eagles and their fans, especially. You and I were both covering the Super Bowl last year, and the Eagles players were great to talk to.
Yeah.
So I don't really put anything against that team. I just think the city and the way that they treated visiting fans was deplorable. So, I think most Vikings fans, given the two options, were happy to see the Saints come out in that game. I kind of agree with you on the Mahomes and Cam Jordan thing, but to me, it's just what's the most exciting. And to me, Patrick Mahomes is an unbelievable talent, somebody who's super exciting to watch, and I'm just really entertained by seeing him improvise a lot of times. And sometimes that's even within the pocket, where all he's doing is dropping his arm angle to throw around a defender and still making nice, accurate passes. And to me, it all comes down to, if he can find the fine line between being an incredible playmaker that he is at quarterback and not trying to do too much and throw dumb interceptions, then I think the Chiefs have a great shot to not only go to the Super Bowl, but to win it.
Oh, I agree, and I would love to see it. I think Mahomes is the best story in the NFL this year, and I love the fact that he's so young, that he's kind of brought this life to not only Kansas City but to Andy Reid himself. I love the way he plays. To me, he's the best story and the most exciting player in the NFL. And as somebody who's going to be covering the Super Bowl, I think both NFC teams are entertaining and would be interesting to cover. But I really want to see the Chiefs at the Super Bowl and not the stinking Patriots again.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, for the Professional Football Writers Association, I actually put Mahomes as my candidate for MVP in the league. So I just feel like that team would be nowhere close to what it is if they still had, Alex Smith at quarterback and not this guy that every defense fears, not only for his running ability, but for his improvisation behind the line of scrimmage.
My other favorite thing is he's got this old crusty coach, and he breaks rules all the time, and the coach doesn't get angry at all. I mean, the number one thing NFL quarterbacks are taught, do not throw late over the middle. That's where interceptions, tip passes, bad things happen, right? Mahomes does it all the time, and he makes it work, and Reed's like, hey, that was fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as long as it turns out it's fun,
yeah.
Right? until it doesn't. But I mean, what was it a few weeks ago with his no-look pass?
Oh,
that thing was unbelievable. We'd be talking about it in different terms if there was a defender there, and I got to believe he, at least, at one point during that play, realized there wasn't going to be a defender there, or in his peripheral vision saw that there wasn't a defender. But I mean, just things like that are so entertaining and kind of out of the box of the traditional NFL that it really makes it fun to watch.
No question. I was not surprised that the Rams beat the Cowboys. I was surprised that they just said, we're going to run it right down your throats all day. Yeah,
and the Cowboys just didn't seem to have an answer. I mean, they looked dog tired on defense. And, to me, I thought that the loss of Cooper Kupp was really going to affect the Rams, and I think it did for a while. But, I think the return to the running game and frankly, to do a lot of it without Todd Gurley back there was really impressive to me. I think they showed the value of a solid offensive line because there were some good holes and some really good power running from that game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I love about these coaches, Reid, Peyton, Belichick, and McVay, is that they know how to game plan. They don't get caught in any boxes. The Rams, for a while, they looked like this new age passing offense. But the reality is everything they do, kind of like the old 49ers, everything they do is based off stretching the defense, wearing out the defense with the run, and setting up the pass. One thing people forget about the Joe Montana 49ers is the bread and butter play in that offense was the toss sweep to Roger Craig, because they knew if they stretched the defense out with that play, it would set up bootlegs, it would set up play action, it would set up everything else they did. And that's what McVay does. You have to stop Todd Gurley to have a chance against that team.
Yeah, and even to bring it back to the Vikings, that was one disappointment for me in the season was I felt like the strength of Dalvin Cook is getting to the outside. And I mean, he's a very good interior cutback runner, but he needs to get some steps to really find an opening and get his cutback lane. And I would have loved to have seen more either stretch plays to the outside or tosses to the outside to give him that opportunity to pick a hole and show his burst getting through it.
A couple more notes on the playoffs with Tim Yoder of VikingUpdate.com. Reminder, if you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. We've got a couple slots open right now. We're talking to a bunch of national advertisers at this point, but we really like working with local businesses. We end up being friends of the businesses, friends with people who run the businesses. And by the way, one minor note, we always talk about apparel on this show, check out sodastick.com. They sponsor our basketball show with John Krasinski, and they have a lot of Vikings, John Randall, Randy Moss type stuff. Check out sodastick.com, and they do a lot of special runs as well. Please remember to download. Please follow us at Talk North Pod on Twitter. Check out the Jeff Diamond Show, and thanks to all of our sponsors on this program. Chargers, I really had some hope that they could give the Patriots at least trouble. And it was the biggest mismatch I can remember, maybe since the Bills beat the Raiders 51-3 in the AFC Championship game back in '89.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I was surprised at how often the Patriots came after Phillip Rivers with blitzing and pressure early in that game, and then toward the end of that game or second half, they backed off of that some. But I think it really shows that Belichick's ability to just switch up things from one game to the next and even one half to the next. We knew this before, but he continues to do it. He continues to catch teams off guard or just outman them. And I thought the Chargers had a shot out there, but I also think that as much time as the Chargers spent on the road and traveling around, eventually that catches up to you, and it just didn't seem like they came out with much energy or very well prepared in that game.
Do you have picks for the championship games?
Well, I like the Chiefs. Actually, I mean, I guess I basically like both favorites. I like the Chiefs because they're at home. I think that can be a big difference. One note that I thought was really interesting, the Chiefs are favored by 3, and Tom Brady has been favored in 67 straight starts, including the playoffs. So this is, the first time in 6 years that he hasn't been favored in a game. So it's pretty amazing to me. But I was surprised at how well the Patriots defense played against the Chargers. But I think having a quarterback that can improvise as well as Patrick Mahomes can would really stress this Patriots defense. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this one. And the Saints, I think the home field advantage is massive there, and far more than it would be for Los Angeles if they were hosting. So I think I'm going to go with the Saints in this one, and basically kind of surprised. I mean, I feel like the Rams have really good talent on their defense, but they don't necessarily play to it. I'm just surprised it's not a better overall defense than it is, and I think the Saints can take advantage of that.
I think the Saints also played about as badly as they could play at home and still won last week. I bet they're a lot sharper this week, and I agree with both picks. Number one, I want the Chiefs to win, but number two, I just think the Saints are a better team overall than the Rams right now. Let's get to the best of social media to wrap up this edition of Viking Update show. Thanks again to Twill in the Dining Galleria, Mississippi Pub, and Beaver Island Brewing, FixologyRepair.com, and Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent in Champlin. I'll let you wrap up the show with best of social media.
Well, this one I found really cool and entertaining. So Jeff Allen, who plays for the Chiefs, you saw that they had a big winter storm in Kansas City. He gets stuck on the way to the game, and he gets helped out by somebody, kindness of stranger type thing, pushes him out. Apparently Allen got his number, but was putting it into his phone, but got another phone call before it was entered. And so he didn't know who this guy was. All he knew is the guy's name was Dave. So after the game, he posts on Twitter that, I'm looking for the guy who helped to push me out. His name was Dave. And it was really entertaining to follow this thread because everybody responding to it was like, I'm Dave. Even women were like, hey, I'm Dave. And because he was offering tickets to the AFC Championship game. Well, it turns out he found Dave. And as it turns out, Dave actually is a homeless man who lives in the truck that he used to help pull Jeff Allen out of the ditch. And so I just think it's really cool. This homeless guy who was a good Samaritan on the side of the road ends up being able to go to the AFC Championship game in Kansas City. So good on Jeff Allen, good on Dave for helping pull him out. And it's just one of those cool stories that happens every once in a while.
Good on Tim Yoder for bringing it to this show, along with all the great insights about the Vikings. Thanks to Tim. Thanks to